right? So, what happens to parents that don't have those types of economic opportunities where you can make those types of choices? Where you say, I can go and come back, right? Because the nature of my work is mobile, or I can come in earlier or leave later, right? So, while I agree, I don't necessarily like to put it in a box of people just making bad decisions. It's the inability to prioritize and figure out what you have to what your trade-off or sacrifice is, right? What the trade-off or sacrifice is. But my friend,
If I can
so, go
ask
ahead.
a
Sorry,
question
Barrington.
for you.
Yep.
Two things. The first thing is, years ago in Durham, there was this organization called Community Justice Alternative, which provided mediation services for anyone. I volunteered with that organization for a few years. And throughout my volunteer time, do you know how many black youth I had? Because what would happen is that these would be folks who were about to go into the criminal justice system. But as a diversion, we would send them to mediation, so to alleviate that.
Mhm.
Do you know how many black kids I actually had the benefit of mediating with? Anyone? Zero. And I had all of the kids, different ages, different whatever it is. And these were all folks who were sent from the courts in Oshawa to us, right? Zero black kids. So I'm saying that the system just allowed these young kids, because they're black kids, and you would know, obviously, as a police officer, who were criminalized. And had they come to mediation, they may not have gone down that path, and they may have become successful in the rest of it. So that's one thing in terms of the system. The second thing I want to add is that, and I know you glossed over it, or I think Aaron glossed over it, that David was the first black chair of Toronto Community Housing, right? The largest social housing landlord in North America, right? Now, he explained to you he came from housing, one of 5 kids with a single parent. Now, I grew up with a single parent too, and thank the Lord I didn't get into the system anywhere I lived. But it's twofold. One is that our parents have to work 1, 2, 3 jobs at a time, and it's difficult for them because the services aren't there to support those kids who are quote unquote latchkey kids. So it takes a lot of discipline and so on behalf of those individual kids. That's one. Two, the parents, they're in limbo. How can I get the services to support my family and keep my son or daughter, because it happens both sides, out of the criminal justice system? So my my question is, how can we actually advocate for additional services for these families? Because I see that as one of the major issues. You are one in a million, right? No doubts about it. But there are so many kids who didn't have those opportunities, maybe didn't have younger siblings to, brush them up, or older siblings. How can we continue to advocate for stuff like the community justice alternative, other mediation services, and more education of our youth? Because a lot of times the youth don't realize that a simple event can put them into the criminal justice system. And once they're in, it's the hardest thing to get back out to rehabilitate it. So I'm looking for some ideas and so on, and some suggestions from anyone in the room on how we as a community can work better to push more services where they're really needed. And we complain about the missing black boys and the rest of it. Maybe that's one of the things, more education of our youth. Let them understand the things you just mentioned in terms of how they're lured into these things. Parents can't always do everything. I'm not saying they should abdicate their responsibilities, but they alone cannot do everything. Community has to be part of it. That is where my head is at. Us as a community need to be more involved and work with support of parents who are not.
I I think this is a great conversation. Thank you for your wisdom. I didn't know you before. Now I know you. Um, I think this is a great conversation that we're having, and I appreciate everyone's comments and everyone's perspectives. I would like to, because we started out and we kind of tangented and we veered. Um, I would like to approach it from more of a psychological slash social perspective in terms of the minds. You were kind of touching it somewhat in a way, and looking at lots of times our youth, they seek out what they seek out because they're not being heard, they're not being seen. They're either out there because mainly because it's survival. Again, responding to cultural pressure. Like you, I have a 17-year-old and I have a 15-year-old. My sons, they do play organized sports. They're very involved. One plays elite baseball, the other prep basketball. I mean, they're in training 4 nights a week. We're talking, and so everything comes back to that level of discipline. Fortunately, my wife and I, we've been able to offer our children, that experience. But in looking at it from a psychological, social perspective, I would like to encourage, I believe, those of you who are going out to be viable public servants,
Candidates, yeah.
and all of us in the community, but especially you all, to have forums and address the parents first. Because the parents, I think part of it is we have to hear what our children are doing. When I say hear, I literally mean find time with the 1, 2, 3 jobs, find time to hear what our children are talking about, what makes them happy, what makes them unhappy. Find out who their friend circle is, invite their friends over, because I promise you, if they show you their friends, they'll show you who they are. So it's about really getting active, getting involved. I know some of the things that we do. TikTok. Our sons are on TikTok. So every now and then they're like, hey, come do a TikTok with. I don't want to do a TikTok. If I'm gonna do any dancing, I want to go out with my wife and enjoy an even, but what we do is we meet them kind of where they are. We're not their friends, we're their parents. And so in doing that, they feel like at least my parents see me. My parents have stopped working long enough, and with both of us being pastors, my parents have stopped counseling other people. My parents have stopped going to funerals long enough. My parents have stopped writing sermons and Bible studies long enough to see who I am. So again, for those of you who are running for office right now, have a forum where you talk to the parents and engage the parents and tell them, get involved in your children's lives. It's not so much what you offer them in terms of what they can feel and touch. It's what you offer them from here. Growing up in my home, you mentioned, single family, single family. I grew up single family, single parent adjacent. The reason why I say adjacent is because my dad was there, but he was married to the bottle. So he was there, but he wasn't there, because when he went on 7-day break, he was drunk all 7 days. The good thing for me is I had cousins around me. I had many, many cousins. They kept me involved. They kept me accountable. But we have to go back now. And I don't know your name, sir, but you were kind of talking about, cultural pressure. And I think we've established there is a systemic error there. Somewhere there's a gap in the system. Yes. And as amazing as you are, I don't know if you want to run for prime minister or not. As amazing as you are, he can't do it all. With all of his wisdom, he can't do it all. So there is a systemic error there. There are things that need to go through, but then there's also the role that we have to play on our side as well. And that's helping our children to be seen, because some of them are out there showing out just because nobody sees them. Because every time they ask for $20, mama and daddy fuss at them. What do you need $20 for? What do you need? They never take time to go out to ask, who are you dating? Who are you hanging out with? They're not heard. So they go out and they show out. They go out. My son, he has Balenciagas, more like Valenciagas, because they're not real. They're not real. And the crazy thing is, we put money in his account, and these shoes keep showing up. And I'm like, I never authorized you to spend money I put in your account for lunch to buy these Balenciagas. But it's part of the culture.
Yeah.
It's part of what he's attracted to, and his friends, they don't bash him. Everybody, they all have, everybody's wearing like the magnetic earrings. It's part of the culture. So what we have to do is, I feel we have to get involved and understand it, even if we don't like it. Because half of the stuff, like even down to the lingo, the verbiage, their language. We have to listen and ask questions. If they come and say something, come home and say something like, yo, 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 that's cap. If you don't know what that's cap means, ask them, what does it mean? So now what you're doing is you're bridging the gap. You're connecting with them. You're showing them, I see you. It doesn't mean I approve of everything that you're doing. It doesn't mean that I approve of every cultural choice that you make, but I see you and I care and I want to be a part of what you're doing. And I think when we do that from the internal part, while we work on passing the laws that fix the systemic errors, I think we can kind of bridge that gap. Because at the end of the day, I know my boys hate the way I fuss. My wife is more of the nurturer. I'm more of the one who I know they hate it, but at the end of the day, everyone needs discipline. And whether we will admit it or not, we appreciate discipline. No one wants to live in a chaotic world all the time.
So there's two things. It's interesting that you spurred a couple of things with me. For those that are candidates, I think that in terms of where the system begins to break down is you need to look at the school system. We're gutting the school system, the role of vice principals and guidance counselors. So guidance counselors are supposed to prepare you for your post-secondary years, give you advice on careers, help you, right? Today they are seized with dealing with issues of mental health and attendance. They don't even have time to do what they're supposed to do. And now we're cutting them. And then we wonder why there's a gap in the system. You know, it's interesting, the piece around language and in the report that I've written where there's a whole glossary. So everybody here, or do anybody with the exception of those under the age of 20 know what a band is? What's a band? See, we need to, this is, right? I literally, Keith, where I work with they sit me down with flashcards. Sir, what's a band? I don't know, right? A band is $1,000. In my day, it was $1,000, right? And so, yeah, right? And so you have kids talking about 5 bands in front of their parents, and their parents have no clue what they're talking about, and they're doing it online.
Can I interject you just
Of course, 100%.
Listen, write this website down, urbandictionary.com. If you hear the words and you don't understand it, put it in Urban Dictionary. It will tell you more than you want to know. You'll be grossed out before you leave the website. Go ahead.
Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, Urban Dictionary.
Right, 100%. Right, so it's those types of things in terms of where the system begins to break down, and create these gaps. So you can't rely on the school. There was a time when you could rely on school to make sure your kids, like, so for instance, I know if it wasn't for school, I would have never played organized sports. Right? What's the first thing they're cutting now? Organized sports, right? You look at my son went to prom today, right? And yet there was a big fight in Brooklyn about whether or not the school was going to organize the prom. And one of the things that I realized, and Barry will remember this, when I was younger, there was always some type of event for young people, right? Either a block or something, and they weren't that bad. Now there's nothing, right? And now you want to take that away from them too, right? There's less and less for them to do that's structured in any type of way that, nothing good can come of that if we just sort of leave them to their own devices and not have that relationship where you actually understand what they're doing, what are they talking about, who their friends are, what are their interests, what do you need support, what are you afraid of, right? Because safety is another big thing, right? Where I work up in Jane and Finch. We talk to the kids. What makes you feel unsafe? Right? I know that's not pleasant supper time conversation, but you need to know. That's when you're going to find out about bullying in school or certain people that they think have a gun or a knife or whatever, and they walk wide circles around them, or we know this group over here or that. But if we never have that conversation, what do you know that they're going through? And then even more important, how do you guide them? How do you, even if you can't guide them, how do you reach out and bring something to them?
I also think that in light of trying to understand, and I'm playing back because even as a pastor, I help several funeral homes when it comes to managing families. Sometimes they will call on me to do funerals for families who don't have pastors. So I run the gamut. And to be very frank with you, they mainly call on me when they have a Black family that they can't manage, meaning that they're fighting. So they bring me in to handle the cultural part of it. And I remember very distinctly one particular funeral, we were at the gravesite. I'd already done the gravesite service. And I thought this was just something I saw on television. I'd never seen this in my life, my country self. Had never seen this in my life. They literally reached in their pockets and started pulling out bottles of Cristal, Crown
pouring it out.
Royal. Someone, I mean, I don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
And they just reached, I mean, they started pulling out red cups and were pouring for themselves and pouring one for the homie. And I was like, I thought this was just on television. And this is right here in Toronto, right here in
Oh,
Toronto,
I've
right in
seen it, I've
Pickering,
seen it, I've seen it, I've
right
seen
in
it, I've
Duppin
seen
Meadows.
it.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
Right up the street over here. And so, and I looked at that and it made me realize with all that I think I know, I still don't know enough. You know what I'm saying? I went through and did everything I was supposed to do. And then all of a sudden, they started pulling out joints and they were smoking weed right at the gravesite. So then what happened is the cemetery workers, they got a little antsy and they came over to the funeral director and they're like, you know, we think something's about to break out. I said, listen to me. Nothing is getting ready to break out. Nobody's getting ready to fight. This is cultural. This is how they celebrate their loved one. I said, you just need to stand back, let them have their moment. Then you can take your backhoe and cover everything up when it's done. And so I said that to say this: when there's something, again, I'm speaking to those of you who are you know, running for public servants. And employ your people in your communities and speak to them. If there's something you don't know or understand, ask questions, do your research. You can literally Google something and at least get an idea so you understand it, especially when it comes to the Black culture. And I see it all the time. I can wear this Martin Luther King Jr. shirt and go somewhere, and I walk into a room and there are people who pull back. This man had a dream for equality. It's again, what we do is we live and we react based on the things we don't understand. So again, he's coming from the professional police officer perspective. I can't speak to that. It was good for me. That was a wonderful presentation. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. But from the social psychological perspective of helping our children, helping our young people to understand, to be seen. If you don't understand, because the truth of the matter is, when you, and I say this very confidently, when you win you're running, when you win, you're going to have to deal with, and I'm sure you already know this, a myriad of cultures, a myriad of desires, people that look familiar to you, people who don't look familiar to you. But yet, as a public servant, it is your responsibility to try to canvas. And as a pastor, that's what I have to do. I'm one pastor trying to serve a lot of sheep. And so if you are the sheep, he has his idea of what I should look like. She has her idea about what I should look like. It is my job to find a way to make the best decision, to get to know him, to find out his history so that I can help him in his faith walk, to find out where she came from so I can help. So it's really about, when you look at being a servant, it's about giving of yourself so that you can learn and connect. If we do not communicate, and I believe you made reference to this earlier, if we don't communicate and connect, then there's no understanding and everyone's going to do what they want to do. And then what we end up doing is blaming. Well, you didn't, without being accountable. I think that's like the broader thing. Again, I love what you presented on policing. I couldn't do that. But,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You know, just a few comments and then I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Daniels. And when we're done this, if anyone who's running here, I would like you to come up at the end and just, in terms of the topic, what we're talking about today, I would like for you to express what that means to you and your perspective on the topic today. We'll do that part of the end. We're live streaming as well, so there are people online that are watching and all across our social media. But a few of the comments I wanted to make that were going on online is, many kids are often driven to hang out with wrong kids because they are bored, easily coerced, out of curiosity. One of the comments says, kids today need to feel they belong in a positive, and that they belong and they matter, and that that communicated at their own level. There's a comment that if there were more programs in the community for these young youths, be introduced to after school on weekends, and to have programs that will interest them over long term. So those are some of the comments that were made online on TikTok. I'm going to pass it over now to Pastor B.J. Daniels from A Purpose Church in Pickering. Pastor Daniels is the lead pastor of Purpose Church in Pickering. He is originally from North Carolina. You can see he gave us a little bit of the lingo earlier. He is married to Pastor Aisha Daniels in 2025. He released his first book. I gotta do my book. Do I do a book with me? 40 Days of Grief Recovery. This offers gentle, faith-filled companion for anyone navigating the pain of loss. He holds a master's degree in marriage and family therapy, has served as clinical counselor, and he is licensed in Ontario to perform civil unions while he pastors along with his wife. He is also a professional actor with roles in several commercials, TV show, and movies featured in Canada and the USA. I'm going to turn it over to you, Pastor
Thank you.
Daniels.
Thank you. So I'll work back on the bio. Just to address the acting. Acting is the fun stuff that I do on the side. If you're interested, you can just look up Bobby Daniels on IMDb and you'll find all my work. But I enjoy that. But I'd like to, we've kind of crossed a lot of things. I had something prepared because I'm just not as wise as David here. I mean, he just rattled. I had a few things prepared, but I wanted to talk about how just letting us know that to realize that our young people, they're not our future citizens. Our young people are citizens today, and they do matter. That has to be the core of how we operate and how we move. And again, I speak very soberly from that perspective because I have to. I am so tired of saying, put the toilet seat down, wipe the toilet seat. There's so many things. And so, again, we have to be on them. We have to engage them, but we also have to reinforce standards and teach them the R word, which is respect. Respect for themselves, respect for others. There's so many, many core things. But I want to talk about in terms of, this is what I have here prepared. Relationships with law enforcement. We have to understand that relationships matter more than the enforcement. And what I mean by that is putting them in an area, and the reason why I say this, I was profiled in Florida. Oh man, how many years ago? I was in Florida driving a U-Haul. My father-in-law sold his house. Long story short, I got pulled over, and before I knew it, there were 10, 12 lights on me. Before I had time to call my wife, she was here in Canada, before I had time to do anything. And our plan in our home always was, if I ever get pulled over, I'll call her on my phone. I'll call the house phone. She'll put it on speakerphone and record it with her mobile phone. So there's something to play back. Because when we establish this is the time of hashtag Sandra Bland, all these others. And I didn't want to become a hashtag. Anyway, this cop, again, there were several cars, but this cop began yelling, and he was just like, get out of the car now, like just yelling at me. I wasn't speeding. I had insurance, I had license, I had everything. I was 100 with what I was doing. I'm nervous, didn't get a chance to call her. I got out, had my license in my hand. I'm like, I dropped it. Can I pick up my license? No, I still haven't seen anyone's face. I just see these blinding lights. Now, my first reaction was to run like hell. Because why? If a spider dropped down right in front of him right now, his first thing would be to back up, move away from it, or hit it away. You get what I'm saying? That's our first reaction. So understanding what could possibly happen here, that was my first response. But I stood there. And I mean, they're just berating me, asking me all kinds of questions. This is my personal experience, asking me all kinds of questions. I mean, tears are rolling on me because I just thought in my mind, I just want to get home to my family. That's all I want. I want to see my boys again. And I'm like, they could easily just pump me full of steel, throw something in the back. And again, I'm a hashtag. You'd be here talking about me today, not sitting beside me. Eventually, one cop walked from behind the lights. He made me lift up the back. I was even afraid to turn my back to them. And when I opened the back trailer of the U-Haul, he says to me, okay. You understand the climate of this country, so that's why we did what we did. We were looking for someone, but it wasn't you. And like, that was the only accountability after he'd almost made me crap my pants. Can I be very honest and transparent here? I said all of that to say that for a long time, there was trauma related to me and my relationship with law enforcement. I didn't want to see a cop. If I were driving and saw a police officer going around me, I would freeze. I said all that to bring it back to our youth, that we have to understand that their relationship and understanding about what police officers do and their job. They're good cops, they're bad cops, they're good people, they're bad people, they're good pastors, they're bad pastors. Paul McCartney said it best, and Stevie Wonder, Ebony and Ivory, people are the same wherever we go. They're good and bad in everyone. Come on. I just aged myself, right? Yeah, I did. But they're good and bad in everyone. But I think the automatic thing that our young black men and women do is as soon as we see a police officer, we relate it to what we see in culture. That stands out to me, and we relate it, and so already there's a negative connotation. You don't know if that cop wants to help you or not, be it black, white, whoever, male, female. We have to work on establishing a good relationship so they understand that the majority of our police officers out here really are trying to help and enforce the law in a decent way. I really believe that. You help the number to go up. You really help the number to go up. And so we have to understand that teaching them, and again, I can't stress that enough. Have a conversation with your children, with your communities. Have a forum at your place. Find a library, find a community center, and bring someone in that is qualified to help them to know not all officers are bad. Not all officers are profiling. Not everything has to be trauma related or trauma attached. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Jay Hales, and there might be another lens looking at it, and I may be wrong about this, and I humbly accept that. The police service has changed a lot. I'm a big advocate of police service. It keeps safe, the region's massive, so we need police service. But the lens that we're looking at it is a lens from the past. The police service that our culture might feel terrified by was a past police service. This police service is more diverse. So these messages have been implanted from us into us, and we've passed it on to our youth, knowing that was different. So I do hear what you're saying. Yes, it has changed, but there's a reason that our community feels that way, because there was these type of things going against us. Yes, there's more people that look like us, but this is a new thing. This is not like the last 100 years the police services look like this. There's been active push to see these type of things. So I can see why there's a level of fear and terror towards this, because the message that the youth are getting are from the past generation, what they experienced. It's different now.
And I don't think we're saying the different things again, because when I send my sons, or when my sons want to go to Dollarama, it's a shame that I have to talk to my black sons about how to act just to go get a pack of bubble gum and a bag of candy. You understand what I'm saying? We have to have that conversation with them. When you go into the store, with your white friends, make sure you're doing the right thing, because when the fall falls, it's always going to fall on you. So you're right. I do agree with you. We have to have those conversations. I'm not saying it's all perfect now. No, it's not. You're right. It is a new push, and everything is really, really unpredictable. But if all we do is have the negative conversation, we will never teach them to see the good in anyone ever. So even when they see the black officer coming, they still won't trust the officer, because it's been put in them that everything is bad. They're not all bad, but what we have to do is we have to stop focusing on all of that and focusing on putting in a seed so that our children can thrive. I want my children to thrive. Again, I grew up in a home with a father. At the age of 10, I'm standing in front of a loaded shotgun because he's trying to shoot my mother. At 10 years old, I had to talk that gun out of his hands. He was drunk and ready to kill her. The barrel was literally on my chest. And when I married my wife, I told her, I am going to raise children who will say I never knew, not children who said I survived. So we've been very intentional. Even now, they want to get on their scooters and I'm going to go to Dollarama. Dad, I'll get you something. Listen, we have to have that conversation before they leave our house. Be on your best behavior. Not everybody likes you. Who are you meeting up with? Have your children's friends over for a barbecue or something. Get to know them. Sense them out. Know who they are. That helps protect them. So at that same time, so like I said, we're not saying anything different. I totally agree with you. It is different, but we have to educate them and not not raise them to think that everybody's bad. If you're all cops in here, everybody's bad. You should be no, no, no. Not everyone's bad. The key is focusing on having them always be found doing what you're supposed to be doing. Tell the truth. If you're with your friends, something's popping off, walk away. And my youngest son did that one day. He called me. He said, they're running around the store here. Come get me. We were so proud of him. Does he still have those friends? He still has those friends, but he separated himself so he would not become a victim of error, a victim of racism, a victim of profiling, a victim of anything. I mean, so yes, ma'am. You first in there. Yes.
I concur with the young man and what he's saying. As we go to children, who's talking to the police? Why would the police talk to me differently when he's talking from how they talk to my son? Why, when I'm stopped, the police will come and speak nicely and say, yeah, but if it was my son, I said, get out of the car. Why do they raise the voice? I'm sorry, but somebody has to talk to the police. After all, we cannot see that they are better placed than us, Indians. And unless and until the young man, this one is the man, I know that some women as well. The young man really shows threatens them. Either they come, they will speak rudely, or why? Why do they even raise their voice? Why do they arrest
What?
by force? Before the other day, this scientist, I don't know what had happened before, but they showed was 3 police maybe on him to arrest one person who wasn't resisting.
Mhm.
Something's wrong somewhere. The police,
Some
police people,
something is wrong, and to be very honest with you, I don't have an answer for you. That's why we have these meetings. That's why we have these forums. That's why there was hashtag Black Lives Matter. That's why we had marches and things of that nature to bring an awareness. Now, I'm probably going to be very unpopular for this statement. I don't know who's not going to like me, but when you look at the video footage of Sandra Bland, who was killed, and of course we don't know how she was killed because all we know is she was escorted off to the police station, and I think the day or day after she's discovered dead. But when you look at the video footage, Sandra Bland was rebellious. I am not approving the behavior that those cops or how they treated her. I am not approving that at all. I am not celebrating that. But she was very rebellious. They asked her to put out her cigarette. She said, I'm not putting out my cigarette. What are you doing? Like she did not comply with the rules they put in front. So they didn't just come and yank her out of the car. First of all, she had a violation. Something was wrong with her car. Tail light or something was wrong, or she crossed the lane without signaling. They may have profiled her by pulling her over for crossing the lane. They may or may not have. My point is, she did not comply. So that goes back to what I was saying. I'm not saying the agenda is different. I'm not saying cops are perfect. What I'm saying is I try to teach my sons to at least comply. First of all, know your rights. But you don't have a right to be yelling at a cop, even if they're yelling at you. I have to teach that as a man of God and my faith, that if you roll up on me and you start yelling at me, or you or anyone, it's up to me to pause and make a decision and decide. Because see, the truth of the matter is you can try Jesus, but don't try me. Because I might be a man of God, and people always want to be quick to hold me to, oh, you're a man of God, you're a pastor. Yeah, but I'm a human first. I'm from the country and I know how to drop one. I know how to do it. So you have a choice in that moment. You have a choice on how to respond. But like I said, I can't speak to you as to why cops, I wish it would all change. Why do cops treat us like that? That is an age-old question. Why? I don't have that answer, but I do know we can do our part, know our rights, and do our best to comply because it is the law. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to bring up that topic about the guy, the white guy and the black guy going to the store. My grandson here, one evening he says to me, he said, Grandma, I'm going to the store here. I said, where are you going to the store for? He said, oh, my friend and I are going to the store. So I said, what kind of friend? He turned to me and said, oh, I have a boyfriend, and what I was going to the store. I turned to him and said, listen to me. You might not take anything out of the store, but he can take something out of the store, and you're standing there and you ran. And then they're going to hold you and they're going to put you in jail. I told my big son, said the same thing to him. The same topic that you bring there. That is my grandson here. The same thing. And I said to him, don't go to the store. Because you don't need anything to the store. I told my daughter. My daughter said, why are you going to the store? And he didn't worry.
And it is unfortunate that we have to teach and train our black children to think
Yes.
like that. It's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair, but also as a point of survival, it is our reality.
Mhm. Yeah. And he didn't worry.
Oh, it's you know, it's interesting now when you go around to stores around some of the schools
Yes.
and they'll put only 4 students in at a time. So what? But the 10 adults can go in there and they're not going to steal, right? It's that comes back to that systemic thing. So in terms of the aggressive behavior to the young black person, well, you know, in that individual officer's mind, it's like this is the one that's going to be aggressive with me or that's a threat, right? You and I aren't a threat and pull you over and they can see you and all the rest of this stuff. And that whole piece around, you know, the term around code switching, how do you behave in certain circumstances? Yeah, it's not fair, but that's the reality because I don't know how to change that because it's interesting.
You have to know how to code switch.
Yeah, you have to. I I was at a store with a friend and both of our kids had went shopping and they had bags. And I said to my friend's kid, "Give me the bag." And he looked at me like, "Why? What's the problem?" And his dad said, "Give Uncle David the bag." And we both know why we asked for the bag, but we've never had this conversation. So to your point, sometimes we visit our trauma upon our kids, but it's to protect you. I don't want you going in the store with a bag because I don't want anybody accusing you of putting anything in that bag. Right? That's the reality. Is that fair? No.
It's not
You should
fair.
be able to go into any store with a bag like anybody else.
Can
And
you have a seat for me, please? I would love to. No, come here, come here.
yeah,
You
yeah.
have done so much for our
Yeah.
community. Come here, come here. I want you to
Yeah.
have this
Right?
seat here. I want you to have
Those
join
are
this
those
conversation.
realities. I mean, I
Have
will
a seat
take
right
that
here.
piece back to the chief. We tried to
That's
train
right.
around
Have a
bias,
seat right here.
around
Chime in this
customer
conversation.
service and
I'm
how
very intrigued by this.
you speak to people,
Yes.
whether they're young or not. But at the same time, people have biases and react. So you think, you know, I was downtown once with my wife, not my wife, my mom, and 4 black kids walked across the front of the car with the pants halfway down their backsides and whatever, and I heard clip. You know what she did? She locked the door.
She locked the door.
Hang on,
Wow.
those could be your well, your
Yeah.
grandson won't wear that because you know I'll kill him. But that's the real. Like, so what are the images that we have in your head? I can tell you if I go certain places and I see people dressed in certain ways, like the ski mask, the Protex, and all the rest of the stuff, I'm looking at you twice. Right? I'm sorry. That's the reality of today because those for me are the signs that not to be comfortable need to be aware. I can check myself afterwards and try and interrogate and say, okay, why did you do that? But that's the reality. It is more compounded and pronounced when a police officer does it, obviously, because it has safety implications for you. And what my friend here was saying was the part of the equation, even though it's not fair that we can control, we need to control it. Right? Because I can't stop that other side from doing whatever they want to do. Right?
I'm going to invite all 3 of you, and I brought Keith up here because he has a lot to offer in this topic and the service that he's done. And you know, my little guy is a baseball player, and we went to Woodstock to play baseball. And there was these kids that were chirping. These kids were playing, and to be honest with you, my son plays in the Fergie Jensen League. But there's a lot of minority in the league, and it was really beautiful to see because often when my son plays baseball, before he'll make a play and someone says, "Oh, your son is a good player." And I'm like, as a mom, I'm like, "How did you know that's my son?" He goes, "Look on the field." I mean, because he gets on the field, right? So that's how people always know who my son is.
Yeah.
But there was an incident that happened, and there's a lot of things that's going on in baseball, but the coach who should have been handling the situation with the other kids, chirping these kids until someone like lost it because they were being antagonized all this time. The coaches did nothing about it, right? So then the other team actually did something towards these kids now, and then they reacted. And the umpires walked off and tell the parents, shut up, and said, I'm calling the police on you. And he literally went to his vehicle, took out a lawn chair, sit there, and called the police. So when the police officers came, thank God they were amazing, right? They said, this is not a police matter, right? This is a league issue, right? The police shouldn't have been called. And the police were called on these children because they're black. And that is not okay for this to happen, right? It's not okay for bad behavior. But it's a situation where, it's a league to deal with for both teams. If they have bad behavior, it's for a league. It did not rise the occasion of calling the police. And the police officer said that. The police officer said, you know what? I would have rather be here watching these kids playing baseball than actually being here taking a report. This is not a police matter, right? And things like that needs to stop because these things are happening. It shouldn't be happening, right? So I want to turn this over to you because I know you have a lot to add to
So,
this conversation.
To what you're saying,
Yeah.
if you ever look at this video, it's called from What Would You Do, John Quinones.
Yes.
And it's this particular video is called Bike Beat. Get a chance to play it on YouTube. And usually, and what happens is there is it's in Oklahoma, the South, right? It's in Oklahoma, the South. I'm probably the only one, maybe outside of the pastor, that's been to Oklahoma. And basically, Oklahoma's would be like anywhere in Durham region. And the long story short is they have a young black man in his 20s pretending he's an actor, but he's pretending he's going to steal the bike. And of 100 people that go by him, 98 call the police on him. Then they would change it with a white actor dressed the exact same way. Of 100 people that go by him, only 2 challenge him. And so when we had this conversation around police response, I always have to remind my officers, or not my officers, my audience, that policing usually doesn't start with the police. It usually starts with the community. So when you have 98 out of 100 calling for the black actor, and you have 2 of 100 calling for the white actor, and then we turn around and say, well, why is there disproportionality in incarceration of black males, let's say? And then we look at the police, and then we look at the judges, and then we look at the lawyers, and then we look at... It doesn't start with any of them. It starts with the community. Who the community views as being criminal, who the community is going to call the police on. And so that in itself contributes to disproportionality of police intervention because the community doesn't have training. The community doesn't have EDI training, diversity training, unconscious bias training. They just see somebody and it's like, and if you said to them, what does your stereotypical criminal look like? They're going to paint a certain picture in their minds about that criminal, what that looks like or what criminality looks like. The person is more likely to look like me than somebody else. And so because of that, we have to also accept that this disproportionality isn't just the fault of the police or the judges or anything else. It is also we as a community that have to take responsibility because it comes down to who we're calling the police on. To my friend, young lady was talking about the people being, the young man being arrested and the police were yelling at him. I can never speak on one specific incident. I will say this, most of the officers that I've worked with my entire career are very professional, but they're not perfect. And I would be lying to say that they are perfect. I think that it can be very tenuous when you're in a position where you know that people may not like you, may not respect what you're doing. Everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody's double checking and questioning what you're doing. And sometimes we don't appreciate maybe what trauma officers go through. Right? At any given time, 10% of our police officers are non-deployable for various reasons. And a lot of that trauma can live with you for the rest of your life. I'm just retired and I'm still harboring those experiences. And so there have been times where I feel like I was short with people. I was probably overly loud with people. And I had to remind myself, I'm the professional here in this scenario. But I'm human. And our feelings can get hurt. And we can be offended because somebody questions our integrity. You know, the vast majority of officers want to do right by their community. And it's an intense screening process just to get it through. It's the only job I know where you apply and one of your interviews is done at your house. Who, yeah, who's ever applied for a job where your employer is in your kitchen? And it is that intense in terms of trying to get the right people
Yeah.
behind that poll. You know, on average, about 5% people that apply for policing are successful.
Yes.
Think about that. Only 5% will ever get the uniform on, which means 95% of all people that apply for policing are not successful. Only 5%. And even with that 5%, we still have some bad apples in the bunch. And that's the truth. But it's not for a lack of interest or lack of trying to make sure that you get the best and the brightest in your organization. And I also believe that often some people change over the course of several years with that trauma experience. There are people that I believe in my heart of hearts were great officers starting out, but the trauma had changed them. And I don't know that there's enough support in policing to help those officers. And then those officers become, like you said, somebody that maybe is going off too loud, maybe too aggressive, and they may not even realize it because it's been something that's been incremental over their career.
Can I ask you something? Where does fear by the officer come into the loudness of the voice? An officer stops someone on the road late at night, if they're working alone. They don't know who that person is, what they have, or anything of the sort. So the one thing they have, apart from the weapon, is their voice and this commanding type of eloquence that they can now scream at that person and try to get that person to
Comply.
shiver, because they now need to have the upper hand. You know, my understanding is that there's a lot of fear that goes into the officer. You know, they're trained and everything else, but they don't know what that individual has or doesn't have. So they need to take protective action, and the first level of that is the raised voice to try and command the situation.
Yes, and it probably it depends on what the context is. I have never led by fear. Contrary to that, I've always stayed calm because I don't want the person that's in that car or that I'm stopped. I don't want them. And so I'm trying to be calm with them. I also recognize other vulnerabilities because, to your point, if I'm pulling somebody over at night by myself, there's a vulnerable part, and a natural fear is being by yourself in the dark at night and all of that stuff. But I feel like if I raise their anxiety, that their anxiety is now going to raise my anxiety, right? And you don't want to be experiencing anxiety with different use of force officers. So I always try to keep it calm, but yeah, that could be a natural response. But sometimes they don't know that they're even raising their voice. It just becomes, what your natural response is.
And an officer told me recently that that's exactly how he approaches someone.
Yeah.
That if he stops someone, he brings the temperature way down, and just speak to the person in a very calm, collected voice and so on. But he says, a lot of times, yes, he's brought it down, and we can just see if it had flipped, as I was just saying a minute ago, in terms of his raising his voice, how it could have affected not just that person, but the whole situation, right? So yeah, I think I agree with you in terms of having that maturity, that sense of maturity to bring
And
it down.
that comes with age and tenure on.
Comes with age, as opposed
Absolutely.
to 10 years
Absolutely.
91, right?
When I was in the early
Good officer.
when I was in the early quarter of my career, the person that went into policing is not the person that came out of policing in terms of how I negotiated with people, how I negotiated with suspects, how I negotiated even with fellow employees. I felt like as my younger years, I relied more on my physical prowess, and in my older years, was my ability to communicate with and avoid a physical confrontation. And there's you can't replace experience. It's one of those things, Keith, I was 23 when I started. I was 22 when I started, 53 when I finished, and they're night and day. I'm the same person, but I wasn't the same person,
I think the other piece around that is increasing the sophistication in training. One of the things that we're teaching now, I teach in the Police Foundations and Public Safety program at Centennial, is if you do not have cultural awareness of another culture and you're working with a partner that does, you follow their lead. That's what's going to tell. So if I'm working with somebody that speaks a different language, but all my culture tells me, my cultural perspective rather tells me something's not comfortable by the way that those people are behaving, but my partner's calm, stay calm. But most people
They start.
don't, they raise right away. So I equate that to black folks. You and I know we could go with a room full of black folks playing or a party. That's classic.
Mm.
Go for a noise complaint. Everybody's making noise, carrying, and everybody's walking around. That's not going to concern me and you. Somebody else that may be concerned. We know when to be concerned with
Mhm.
our people, right? And so, but if you've never been exposed, and the training doesn't necessarily always teach you these little tricks. Look to the person that's from that culture that you're working with, if you're fortunate to do that, to tell you whether or not you need to be concerned about what's going on.
So we're going to we're going to get each person to just give a bit of a wrap up, and then we're going to have any candidates here who are running who want to share their thoughts on it. So we'll start 1, 2, 3, me, and then each person. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite all three of you to have a conversation with me next Tuesday, and in the evening if you want. And we will have a panel conversation about police in the community. I think it's an amazing conversation to
I
have.
think you need to invite the chief.
The police chief?
Yes.
Do you know? I
That's
don't know how to reach
that's
the
who
police
I
chief.
know how to reach him.
I'm not.
I have him on WhatsApp.
You
I
have
can
him on
call him right
WhatsApp?
now if you need.
Okay,
Right?
invite the police chief.
100%. That's the
I
person
would-
that you want. Like, I mean,
Okay,
we
okay.
can give you a
Yeah.
perspective from our perspective.
Yes.
That's the person you're paying to be in charge. That's the
Yes.
person that needs to know
Yes.
what you think's working, what you think's not working, and your suggestions on how to
Okay,
improve it.
okay.
To
So
tell,
this is what
yeah,
we're gonna do.
you invite
We've
the
heard some
chief.
voices here.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be my. I'm not as
Liaison.
high profile as you are.
Oh,
Your
sure.
liaison.
Right?
You just have to
So,
eat in
yeah,
the right
so
places.
all four of us are gonna have a conversation around this topic because I think it's very important because we have to help build our system or improve our system. And for the young people, like, I've said to myself now, my time, I'm gonna use my extra time to help mentor these young people, right? We have a responsibility to do so. So I'm gonna start with Pastor PJ Daniels. If we can have.
Thank you very much for creating this space where we can have a conversation and even making it available to people who are streaming. I just want to say that I hope that we begin to build some type of infrastructure where we don't assume the worst about law enforcement, but yet we are sober and vigilant and take it at a case by case. That we don't look so much at again against popular opinion. That we don't look so much at culture and begin at color and begin to just size someone up because we see them coming over. That we engage our youth, talk with them, find out really what's going on in their heads, ask them how their day is going. Again, to those who are running, encourage your parents to get to know their children beyond just saying, okay, that's my DNA or that's the one that I'm paying their bills. Or it's parenting is way more than that. It's creating a safe space where your children can talk to you and invite their community, invite their sub community into your community to be a part. Get to know their friends' parents and be accountable. So in other words, what we're doing is we're building an infrastructure and a foundation where our young people can be heard and have these conversations about what it looks like. Find out how they perceive law enforcement, how they perceive police officers, and begin to change that narrative. But then again, for our Black children, we have to continue the conversation on teaching them to do the right thing, to keep their eyes open, to be strategic when they go into a place. Unfortunately, that's not going to change. It's not going to change. And I'm not going to get political with that in terms of who's in office in what country or whatever. We're not going to get into that, but it's just not, it's not going to change. I'm 51, 52, and I'm still very careful. When I walk into a place, I still look at the camera. I'm very conscious. I mean, the worst thing they could have done is, and this may be funny, and why is there self checkout? Most of the thefts in these stores, these retail stores now, happening at the self checkout. It's not people running out with televisions. It's at the checkout. So we have to teach them to do the right thing. If you go to the checkout, do the right thing. Don't slide one thing over. There's a camera on the unit watching. There are cameras overhead constantly watching. Don't do the right thing. If you have a need for something, let me know. I'll help you to get it. We'll find a way to get it. Be very, very intentional about how you communicate to your youth so they don't fall.
I'm just going to follow on that in terms of the brief wrap up. I think that it's important as parents that you have systems and your own philosophy and you articulate it to your children. One of the things I've tried to do with my two is that around that same piece, there's no need to steal, there's no need to take things. Come to me. You will always get one of three answers: yes, no, or wait. If it's no, get out of my face. I don't want to hear from you again. Yes, you're good to go. Wait means we'll have to figure out how we're going to get it. But none of this, the answer cannot be no to everything, because then you're going to create a problem. Have a system and explain to them. Same thing, explain how money works, right? They have grown up in a age where you can't. I remember showing my son, he wanted something. I said, look in the wallet, no money. I said, use your credit card, daddy, use your credit card, right? Because what do they see all day? Credit card, tap, 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 tap. Right? So if you don't explain to them that something has to be on, it's like, oh, you're being mean because, right? Or you don't need that, right? Or we'll go to, I've seen that somewhere else that we can go, or we'll wait till we go to the States and pick it up, right? So, you know, oh, you don't worry about me and them. I know what to do. That's what you're gonna do. Deport me? I'm right there. Send me right back. You know, but definitely creating those types of things where we have open communication, right? You tell your kid to do something, tell them the why. And also be one of the things that I've learned in the latter half of my career, this whole thing about brain development, right? And understanding that your brain does not fully develop until 25. So some of the things, especially as Africans and West Indians, that we expect from our kids, right? Because we were raised as little adults, right? So it's like telling your kid to clean up your room, and in their mind that means make sure you can't see any garbage on the floor, right? It's all on the bed in the cupboard. Well, until you show them what you expect, why would you then get upset to say the room's not clean? You told them to clean the room. They gave you their version of clean. You have to show them, right? This is what I expect. This is what I want you to do, and this is why, right? But you know, because the reality of it is they're in school 6, 7 hours a day, and all day long they're being taught to question things and think and to explore, right? Which may go counter to the culture in which you were raised. You don't ask your parents questions. I remember in grade 11 home ec being asked to go home and ask my mother, what's the budget for the house? I said, what, are you trying to set me up for death? Right? You know, like going home as a West Indian or African and asking your parents, what's the budget for the house? Why, you have a contribution to make to it, right? But that's normal. I do that, and I will show this is how much money we make, right? This is a reality, right? So we just need to shift a little bit to realize that there's different things, and talk with them and create those avenues where they can talk to you.
I think from the community perspective, like great dialogue. You know, I'm glad that we have community members and public service people that are willing to come out and have those conversations, because it only helps us when we have a platform where we can have these conversations. And to Dave's point, you know, having maybe members of the police service present for maybe an open house would be also a great opportunity, because in order to have public confidence, you have to have that communication. And I think that's one of the challenges for policing, and in particular because we're in Durham Regional, so Durham Regional Police, is that they have to be able to help foster trust within the community. And so, the chief needs to be here, present, so that he can also answer questions directly. He may not have the answer, right? I get it. He's the chief, he's at the top, but then he can always get that answer if he doesn't know the answer. But I think it's imperative that we continue to have these conversations as a community, and I also think that that level of accountability with the Durham Regional Police would be excellent as well.
Yes, I agree with you. This is the first, we did this in Clarendon and we had a police chief there, but we had to push this forward last minute, but we're expanding this next year. I know Mayor Ash as well too. I like the dialogue in terms of having these conversations and talking to police officers. I know we're gonna be looking at having like a mental health check for counselors. I mean, if we're to have something with the police officers and have, you know, individual like you guys help to facilitate that conversation, right? I think that will make a big difference in terms of the conversation we can have and mending relationships and moving forward, right? One of the things that I've seen too is that a lot of these police officers shares the same experiences that we went through, right? But we often don't see that.
We don't.
And we don't see that they're human beings, you know? And, you know, like for some reason the past year, the officers that I've encountered, it's like some of them, you know, they're more open to say, you know what, well, I've been through this and stuff like that. And when you're servicing the community and you hear that come from a police officer, you're like, oh yeah, you understand me. You know,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
makes a huge difference. So we need to see that our officers are human beings, you know, see that story and being able to relate because it makes a huge difference, you know. But thank you guys very much. We're gonna continue this conversation with these three individuals on Health 180 with Perry and Fan on Rogers TV. So that's gonna be coming up very shortly. And I would like thank you guys for joining, and I would like to yeah, it's a great conversation. I really appreciate it. And I'm gonna ask the candidates. I'm gonna sit here. We're still live streaming, so we keep the live streaming going. And then I'm gonna have you come one by one and sit with me and just tell me what this topic means to you. Right? So yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great job. Who wants to come up with me and sit beside? Come on, have a seat with me. Okay. So we're on TikTok as well as we on Facebook. And do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Sid Goyal and I'm running for Ward 5 in Oshawa Street.
Oshawa. Okay, nice. Let me ask you this. Why did you decide? It's a tough, very tough topic, and I wanted to ask a few of you a couple questions because we provide services to the community, run programs and stuff like that, and who leads our community is important to us. So why it is not an easy decision to make. Why did you decide to put your hand in the career?
Oh, are you asking me about coming here or
Just deciding to run.
I think for the last 1 year or so, I've been thinking about, doing more,
Mhm.
For the community in general. So, because I live in South Oshawa,
Yes.
I see a lot of youth as
Mhm.
well. We have some, problems as well. So I just thought that, it's time to, do something about it.
Yes.
Last year, I actually ran a little food drive as well, along
Yes.
with my community.
Yes.
And that was kind of like the genesis of it. And this year, I just thought that, okay, maybe, there's something I could do. Maybe this will give me an opportunity to, go door to door, which is something which I'm doing.
Yeah.
Talking to people,
Mhm.
understanding what concerns them, and then basically, work on solutions. I'm a very solutions-oriented person
Yes.
in general. And I thought maybe I can, use my skills of, it's very solution focused.
Mm.
What can I do? How can I solve people's problems? And that's really what, motivated me to run.
That's
Yep.
nice to hear. So what does policing and community means to you?
My personal experience with policing has been, fairly good.
Mhm.
But I can just narrate one incident to you, not necessarily about policing, but, as I was saying earlier, as I was door knocking, I came across this youth and, kind of narrated his whole, horrifying experience overall.
Mhm.
The discrimination, not necessarily, at the hands of officers, but, with society, in general. So, policing for me is about keeping the society safe in general, and that means everyone and everyone. So it's not just, about the race itself, but, when I go to certain streets, grandmothers are telling me I cannot send my kids to parks anymore because there's so much happening. You know, with the there's so much disturbance. There's like drug paraphernalia, there, and they don't feel safe. About that. So I think to me, like policing should be about making sure that the society in general feels safe,
Yes.
and that includes all races and everybody. But as I came across this, the people also need to feel safe telling officers and talking to them, approaching them, that it's safe to do so. So this is something, broadly, which I would say,
Thank you. Good
Yeah.
luck with your race.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Who wants to comment?
You got this.
Just kidding.
Okay, Janet, you get to sit
Alright,
beside your
alright.
famous Caribbean fan.
Famous
You know how many
Caribbean
people
fan.
would ask him
Bro.
to sit beside me or take pictures with me, and I said no. Just
I'm
kidding.
privileged. Good to see you,
Good to see you. Good to see you.
and thank you for having me.
Yes. Can you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yes, my name is Jay Hales. I'm a firefighter, business owner. I'm community leader. I'm two non-for-profits, one business, like I said, business owner. I'm various groups around Ajax, from the Board of Trade, Collegian, Connecting GTA, Coach for Special Olympic, and so much more. And I'll be running right now as your Ward 2 local counselor. Look forward to serving you this fall.
So why did you decide to run?
Yes, when it comes to running, I think the biggest thing is leadership. And when it comes to leadership, it comes down to service. And I've had the privilege over my life to be able to serve in so many capacities. Like I said, I'm a full-time firefighter, business owner. I had a youth group called Eagle Eye. We met for about 12 youth on GTA and so much more. And throughout my opportunity to serve, I do wear many hats, different uniforms. But even though I switch uniforms, the biggest thing is the mission doesn't change. It's all service, and it's just a natural progression to where I want to lead the community.
So what we spoke about earlier in terms of police and community, what does that mean to you?
I am in emergency services. I am a firefighter, and I think police service. I'm a big advocate for police service. I believe we should support the police service, and I also believe we need to have accountability.
Yeah.
Before we make choices and pass certain things, we got to make sure the it matches what the residents are looking for. The police need safety, they need protection, and we need a police service. In Durham region, a lot of people see the budget starting to increase, and they look like I'm in Ajax, my taxes are going up, yes, they're going up. That's for the whole region. The police are understaffed. So if you want the protection you need for Durham region, Oshawa, Pickering, all these places, they need the support and they need the budget. And just like your taxes are rising, the police that we see also in the community, they're also civilians too. Their taxes are rising. My taxes are rising, but it allows them to do the job that we need them to do.
Yeah.
And based on the conversation we had, we're talking about how the police are engaging us. If we want a different response, we need to put ourselves in these positions more and more and more. We understand each other. We understand you need to bring that diversity there, and that's what they're doing, is what we need to do. So we complain about the change that we want, be an active part. That's policing, that's politics, that's firefighting. In any role of influence, if you want change, lead the way. Yeah.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
All right. Who's next? Hello.
Hello,
How are you?
I am doing very well, thanks. How are you?
Please introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm Malcolm Barrington. I'm the candidate for Ward 1 in Ajax for the municipal election in October.
So why did you get into the ring? Why did you decide to run?
Well, I've always been one who is all for service. I've been a military officer. I've worked for the largest social housing landlord in Ontario in North America. And I also have raised, still raising, I shouldn't have had, a police officer who is now in service, so he's following on in the trend. So that is the main reason for me running. Now, I've lived in Ajax for over 30 years, and I've benefited greatly from many of the services, the community. And I feel that it's time now. I'm retired, but I'm not done.
Yes.
So I feel that this is a way for me to give back to our community.
Yes,
It's, I have the knowledge.
yes,
I'm educated to an MBA standard. I have the experience, as I mentioned to you earlier, and I have the will and the drive to support and to engage and to bring the best out of our community.
yes.
So those are some of the reasons why I'm running. And community safety is one of the pillars of my campaign.
So what's your thoughts around policing and community and the conversation we're having here today?
Whenever I think of policing, I always think of community. Because policing isn't only the folks that you see in the uniforms or in the cars and so on. I like to use the word policing for each and every one of us. Whether it's me walking my dog late at night and seeing a garage door open and either ringing that bell or calling the cops to say a garage door is open, or me seeing a youngster with his pants down and saying, okay, I'm in my late 60s. I bet you can't beat me to the corner. It's a way of getting the folk to understand,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the damage. Because my pants are up, yours is straight, and you can't beat me to the corner. No way. So that's really it. But I see it's in Durham. And I know that the Durham police has taken a lot of flack recently. But we as residents of Durham need to recognize we have a key role to play in our community, in the security and safety of our community. The police cannot do it on their own. There, as my colleague said earlier, the budget is not there for them on their own. They need support. And the support we can give them is by each and every one of us being vigilant and addressing situations before they become a major issue. And we can do that. Let's all work together, work with our police services. They're there to help us. They're not there to cause problems for us. They want us to be safe. And if we can work together with them, Durham can be a safer place for each and every one of us. Thank you ever so much. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us. Thank you those who are online. We're going to put the videos and put it across our social media. I think it's important in terms of everything that we do to have great leadership in place. Good luck to the candidates who are here in the race. I think it's a tremendous thing to put yourself forward. It's never easy. Wish you all the best. And I think I might be interviewing as much candidates as possible. Because we're going to be putting together a mental health chat for counselors across the region. That's coming up in November. So yeah, good luck, and maybe I'll see you guys on the next side. But thank you for joining us, everyone. It was a great conversation. And again, David, Keith, and BJ, we're going to have this conversation on Rogers. And David, if you can connect the police chief to have this conversation. This is about the community. This is about us living together and us having a community that's safe for our children. And you see, I want to thank the Alex Monahan Youth Program members for being here today as well, for your hard work and dedication. And thank our partner, our silent partner, Mayor Kevin Ash. Oh my goodness. These things that we're doing, he's contributed a lot to the work that we're doing and supporting the youths and everything like that. So, Karen O'Brien, thank you very much. And I'm going to try to set it up where our youths can actually engage in these interviews. So the community can see who these candidates are, not from a political lens, from a community lens. And to help empower and help support the next leadership in our community. But yeah, this was a great conversation of policing and community. And I'm for policing, by the way. There was a point in my life where I only dated police officers. But yeah, I am for policing. I know that the system is not perfect. I'm the type of person, if I'm doing something wrong or I could make a difference, I would like to hear it, right? I don't take it as someone criticizing me, but I take it as, a way I can listen and do better, right? We can all do better, right? So thank you everyone who's been here. Thank you everyone who were online. And this is a great conversation. And watch Health 180 with Carrie Fan and Roger Skibby. My name is Carrie Fan. So normally what I say is, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank my guests for joining us, and thank you for watching, because together we are stronger.